The Python Interactive Interpreter is actually one of the most useful features of the language, if you ask me. And I tend to use it all the time for experimenting and trying things out. And to motivate that, I thought I would do a more interesting example than just hello world. Essentially, the example involves my office. So my office in Chicago is located on Clark Street, right next to a CTA bus stop. One of the things that you'll find on these bus stops is they have information where you can text like a certain code in and find out when the next bus is going to arrive. And so what I thought I would do is an example of me getting that information from Python so I can find out when to hop the bus and head down to Wrigley Field, maybe catch a Cubs game. So to do that, what I've got the bus stop up above, and I'm going to fire up Python down below, and I'm going to interactively find out how long I'm going to have to wait at this bus stop for something to show up. I'll talk about some of the features that I'm using as I type. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to import a library. So Python comes with a large library of modules for doing different things. This library that I've imported is something that can let me go out and fetch web pages. It lets me make HTTP requests out on the web. And I'm going to go to a site that the city of Chicago runs for tracking buses. I'm going to pull down a stop prediction from that. Don't ask how I got this URL, although you can find out online if you need to. But what I'm going to do is essentially punch in some numbers on here. So I'm going to make a request saying I want information about stop 14787. That's this little code down in the bottom where it says CTA bus. And then the route is the bus route number on that. So I'm going to make a request. And if that works, I'm going to read some data back and I'll get something that looks like that. Now that looks a little bit cryptic, but what I've got is a fragment of XML. Okay, it comes back, identifies itself as XML. And embedded in that XML, there are stop estimations. There's these little PT elements that I could try to extract out of there. And so to do that, I'm going to load another module from Python. This statement here is another way of importing a library. And what I'm going to do is turn that data that I just read into an XML document of some sort. Don't worry about the details so much right now. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to write a little query where I'll ask to go find all the PT elements in that data and then print out what their text is. So just doing the interactive Python interpreter, I have found out I will have to wait 7 minutes at this bus stop to go down the street. And then if I miss that bus, I'll get another one in 10 minutes and then in 20 minutes. This is the kind of cool stuff that you can do with this interactive mode of Python. I mean, again, you can try things out. You can experiment with it. It's like instant gratification. This is so much more compelling than just printing hello world, if you ask me. Now, because that might be a useful thing to do, I thought I would take that code and put it into a file. So, typing at the interactive prompt, that's great, but probably what you want to do is make a file that will do that instead. So again, if you want to make a program that you can run over and over again, you fire up your editor and you put those same statements into a file. So I'm going to, again, do the import statement. This is loading a library. I'll make that request to go fetch the bus information here. Okay, again, this asking for a stop prediction from the city here. And I have to give the route number and the stop ID. Okay, so I'm going to make this request. We'll get the data. Again, I'm typing the commands pretty much the same that I did in the interactive interpreter down below. And then I'm going to go find all of the PT elements. Okay, so now I've got a little program nextbus.py. I now have a program that whenever I want to find out when the bus comes by my office, I can run Python 3 on that next bus, and it will tell me, oh, okay, I've made a mistake there. Very common thing to make a mistake. What I forgot in the code is to do URL open. We'll talk more about traceback messages in a later lesson, but that's what happened there. So let's run the program. Now I have a different mistake. I have a typo in my URL. That error down below, it says 404. That's an HTTP error that you get if you go to a non-existent web page. So let's try it. Okay, so now I have to wait 5 minutes for the bus. This is kind of the kind of thing you would do to get started. That interactive mode, very useful for experimentation. Once you've experimented a little bit, put it into a file, and then you can run your file over and over again.